Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. Sorry we're a few minutes late. We were having a small tech difficulty, but thank goodness for Sean, our AV wizard. We are here live with you.
He just made a little wand and like.
Yeah. So welcome to the Friends and Fiction Show. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
I'm Kristin Harmel.
And this is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians. This week's episode is our one live show of the month, and the gang's all here. We are thrilled to welcome this month's Friends and Fiction featured author, Jamie Brenner, to discuss her new novel, our July 2024 pick of the month, A Novel Summer. The book was just released yesterday on July 16th, and we are so excited to speak to Jamie about it.
But first, we have some things we want to talk to you about. We want to remind you to check out all of the simply amazing things going on in our Friends and Fiction community at friendsandfiction.com.
Right. At friendsandfiction.com, you'll find our show schedule, details on upcoming in-person events, and links to our bookshop.org page, to the Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa. You know, you guys, they had their 50th book club Zoom. Yeah, wow. Monday night. And then to our merch store and our newsletter sign up. In other words, if you want to know more about anything Friends and Fiction, and we offer a lot, be sure to check out friendsandfiction.com.
Yeah, and Mary Kay, I saw you on that book club Zoom with Catherine Center.
Yeah, like really I busted in on them.
Awesome. I love it. They're providing such great content.
Yeah.
So we also encourage you all out there to visit our Substack page. You can read all our free weekly posts on the Substack website or app. And if you subscribe, the posts will land in your inbox so you never miss a thing. And you guys, it is so much more than an email newsletter. We talk about it as our newsletter, but it really is a lot more. So for paid subscribers, we offer incredible extra content, including deeper dives with all of our weekly show guests and monthly roundtable discussions among the 4 of us and our author friends. So I recently did a 4-part series with a selection of 12 other authors, including the lovely Patti, and that was about writing World War II fiction. And MKA and Kristy just did one last week with Ellen Hildebrand, Nancy Thayer, and our friend Brooklyn Foster about beach reads. So it costs just $5 a month or $50 a year for the paid subscription. And of course, for that low fee, you are helping fund Friends and Fiction too, which is fantastic. So check us out at friendsandfiction.substack.com.
Before we welcome our guest, we have 2 giveaways cooking. They both just wrapped up, and we are going to announce the winners of each right now, live on the air. First, in our 7-book giveaway with the Killer Author Club, the winner is Jeannie Sheets from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Woo! Congratulations.
I would like to get those 7 books in.
Me too.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jean. Mm-hmm. All right, next we had a 5-book Beach Reads giveaway. See what you miss if you don't get the newsletter. You would have known about this because they did a roundtable discussion. And that was with Kristy, Mary Kay, Ellen Hildebrand, Nancy Thayer, and Brooklyn Foster. Our winner is Lisa Weiser from Plano, Texas.
Yay.
So congratulations to you both. Meg will be in touch with you to confirm your addresses and get your book shipped. And Sean already showed the Beach Reads graphic. But before we move on, to welcome Jamie, we have 2 very important things to celebrate.
That is right. Yesterday was the birthday of our very own Kristy Woodson Harvey. And Mary Kay's birthday is less than 2 weeks away. Is July not like the best month on Friends and Fiction?
Happy birthday, America and us.
America and us.
Wow.
So let's raise a glass to toast two of our and your favorite authors and, more importantly, favorite women. Happy birthday, Kristy.
Aw,
Happy birthday,
thank you.
ladies.
I got really nervous because I was like, this is not in my script. What are they talking about?
I was like, what happened? What did I miss?
Okay. So now we are going to welcome and introduce, thank you guys, our good friend, Jamie Brenner.
Jamie is a friend to all of us and is the best-selling author of several novels, including The Forever Summer and Blush. Book list called Blush, a delectable soap that is the epitome of escapist reading pleasure.
Jamie grew up in suburban Philadelphia, not far from where I grew up, on a steady diet of fiction and soap operas, and then moved to New York City, where she worked in book publishing and fashion. After raising two daughters in Manhattan, Jamie has returned to her hometown, and she spends her summers visiting the beaches that inspire her novels.
And lucky for us, her new book, A Novel Summer, was just released yesterday on July 16th. Appropriately, Kristy's birthday.
Such a good gift to me. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
She was thinking of you.
And it centers around a best-selling author finding love and second chances in the stacks of a quaint beach town bookshop.
So good. All right, Sean, can you bring Jamie on, please?
Hi,
Hi, ladies.
Okay, well, we're so excited to have you tonight. But before we dive in, you have to tell us where you are.
Okay, so I am in Bethany Beach, Delaware, in the back stock room of Bethany Beach Books. So if you see behind me,
That's amazing.
I love
I
it.
think these are my books here. Oh, I can't. It's back
Other
there.
way, other way.
And then
Sorry, it's hard.
450 Ellen Hildebrand books over on the other. It looks like the Ellen Hildebrand book showroom back here. It's hilarious. It's very fully stocked for beach reads. Just anyone in the area, if you're looking for a beach read, Kristy's book is right out front on the shelf, signed copies here. So everyone's is. It's a great place to be. So live from Bethany Beach.
Well, see, I mean, what authors on tour will do for us to make it to the show. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you know how much I loved this book. I read it in January on a trip to Florida, and I couldn't put it down. And I was texting Jamie the whole time, like, I love this. And this is so great. And, anyway, I've loved all your books. But as I said to you, I think this one is my very favorite. So we're so excited to talk about it. And friends out there, I want to remind you that, thank goodness, we are, in fact, live tonight. So please feel free to drop your questions for Jamie in the comments, and we will try to get to some of them. So Jamie, Shelby Archer, your protagonist, has written her first novel and comes back to Provincetown on Cape Cod, expecting a bit of a hero's welcome. Instead, well, she realizes that maybe you can't go home again and is greeted by cold shoulders, especially from her former best friend Hunter, who feels her secrets were shared in Shelby's novel. Shelby is ready to run back to New York, but when her friend who owns the indie bookstore on the Cape needs her help for the summer, Shelby can't say no. Juggling friendship, her writing, the past, the present, and maybe a hint of romance too, Shelby is faced with a tough choice: success or second chances. So Jamie, that's just a little bit about what this book is about. So tell us more, and can you tell us what it's really about?
First of all, I wish I could take you on the road with me, because you have literally just encapsulated the book better than I ever could. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to memorize it for my next tour stop. Yes. The book is about a debut novelist and and she's young, she's in her 20s, finding her way, balancing her ambition, her creative dreams with the people and the place that matter the most in her life. So it's a book about a writer, in her first blush of success, managing all that entails, while trying to hold on to the person she was when she first dreamed about becoming a writer. But what it's really about, and I think of you ladies whenever I try to explain a book, because I love the way you, bifurcate what a book is about plot versus what it's about really. And hearing you guys speak in Brielle 2 years ago changed the way I look at stories. So
Oh,
I
wow.
tell people all the time, if you can hear Friends in Fiction live, even if you've written books on your own, you're still going to learn something. And I believe that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So what the book is really about is it's about friendship. And it's about that moment in time between school and adulthood when the people you swore would be your friends for life either make that transition to the real world or they don't. And really, I think you don't realize when you're young how fleeting that moment is when you have friendship 24/7. And I got the idea for this book last summer when I had a summer off from promoting. And I thought, great, I'm going to actually get to see all of my friends that I never see. And the next thing you knew, summer had passed and I hadn't gotten any of those visits accomplished.
Yeah.
And I realized the irony is, we spent so much of college, spend our time talking about what we wanted out of the future, like marriages and children and careers. And now we're at that stage of life where we have those things firing in all cylinders, but they're the very things that have taken us away from each other. And it's life, and it's just the way things are, but I find something very poignant in that. So I wanted to go back to that time in my life when friendship was everything and look at 3 women who have to navigate that transition to real life.
Man, I love that. That's so
Great
well said.
beautifully said.
Yeah.
I got a little
Me too.
nostalgic for my college girlfriends. So I'm going to see this summer, so I'm excited. But as writers, I think, that one of the things that interested us most in this plot is the idea that these bits and pieces of stories from our past and other people's past sometimes sneak their way into our stories in ways that we might not even realize. I always say that we only have our own compost pile to work with, right? So how did that idea factor into Shelby's writing process and the big choices she had to make in this novel?
Well, I have to say that I was a little trepidatious to write a book about a writer. And honestly, it was my editor's idea. She really wanted me to go down this path. And, my thinking was writing is such an internal thing, and it's a solitary thing. So I was wrestling with what my editor wanted, combined with this emotional story I wanted to tell. And so the idea was, okay, so how would being a writer conflict maybe with your personal life? And yes, you're right, Patti. We only have our own internal well of experiences and emotional things to work with. So I have never had the experience of crossing that line using something I shouldn't have, not that I know of, but I can imagine.
That's what it is, not that we know of.
Not that you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm sure you've all experienced maybe people in your life that either want to see themselves in your books or they think something's there that they're really projecting. And so that was sort of what I had to work with, both with the reality of being a writer with close people in your life and how do I dramatize something that is just in our minds in terms of our day-to-day work life.
Yep.
So true.
Okay, so now the Provincetown setting of this novel really comes to life, making this a true literary vacation. And I know that you've written books set in and around Provincetown in the past. Now that we know you've got real ties to P-Town and have written about it, what is it about this setting that draws you in? And how do you go about getting it just right?
Provincetown is a quirky place. It has a very distinct personality. It's amazing. And I first heard about it through the CBS Sunday Morning Show when they interviewed the author Michael Cunningham, who wrote The Hours. And he's a longtime resident, and he described it as a place that prefers peculiarity. And, as and I love that. And I think it's true. It's a place where people can really go and leave their worries behind, leave whatever masks they have to wear in their professional lives behind, and just, really let go. And it's a place that is you really bump right up against the natural world. It's very remote, so you have to go out of your way to get there. And once you're on that peninsula, that in itself gives you a sense of community. So there's just a lot to work with. And I did feel a sense of wanting to be sensitive to the people who live there year round or have been going there for 30 years, and not just be one of those people who drops in and uses something. So I have always had sort of my own Provincetown sensitivity reader. And he's a wonderful Provincetown regular named Buck Mahoney. He's also a writer. So he reads my books just so that I'm getting the Provincetown stuff right, both historically and sensibility wise. And I appreciate that so much. And I actually based a character in this book on him. The character of Duke is based on my, and I did clear that ahead of time. I said, by the way, I'm going to sort of, and he was fine with it. So,
that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's been a really rewarding place to set books. I'm sure all of you have experienced this. Some places just give more than others.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you find that place that gives a lot, there's nothing more you could ask for in terms of crafting a book.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good sound bites already tonight, Jamie.
I
Thanks.
was
You're really,
Yes.
really working it.
I'm on book tour mode.
Yeah. Now, have you ever had anybody come back to you and say, or did you already say that you've never had that happen?
Okay, well, the one thing I did have is I've written about a lot of different restaurants or spots in Provincetown that are real.
Yeah.
So I ended up spending like half a year there when the pandemic hit, which was the most amount of time. And I got to know a woman who runs a local little market and a restaurant. And one day she said, look, I got to tell you, I'm really annoyed that you keep writing about X restaurant and you've never featured mine.
Oh
and
my goodness.
I was mortified, and she was right. And I was in the middle of writing a book, and I made sure I had a nice set piece right at her restaurant, Liz's Cafe. And I've been very conscious of that ever since. So now I'm kind of mixing in some fictional places with the real. So I have a little more leeway with, places I mention or don't mention.
Well, that's hard though, right? Like, not to interject, but just having written about Beaufort, the real Beaufort, for the first time, I'm like very conscious of that. There's some of my favorite places in Beaufort that are not in the book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel really badly, like that they're, I hope their feelings aren't hurt because I love them. They just didn't fit in the book.
They didn't
Right.
fit. Absolutely. Oh, that's so interesting. So, Jamie, I've heard that you are, in your words, an obsessive plotter. So, high five for that, because I am too. So, see, I knew you and I are like meant to be BFFs. So, can you tell us about your process for writing A Novel Summer? Which, by the way, I do have to say, Kristy has been raving about since reading it at the beginning of the year. Like, we have been hearing about this book, honestly, for months, and I've been so excited to read it. And I just read it a few weeks ago, and Jamie, it's so good. And maybe that's just my little plotter heart responding to it. So can you talk to us a little bit about your process for writing this? And also, despite all your plotting, were there any surprises along the way?
Yes. Well, thank you. And I have to say, Kristy read the book literally in like the middle of the darkest winter time when it was so abstract. It was that time when the book is like not out yet and it's going through final edits and you feel like you don't really know what you have. And it was my first time working with a new editor. So to have that positive feedback meant everything. It gave me an entirely new energy. It's so awkward to have to send the book out, and just it's such an uncomfortable time for me. And Kristy was, really like an angel on my shoulder and meant the world to me. So I mean that like from the bottom of my heart. And I appreciate it.
It is a bad time. That is a bad time. We all know that awkward, terrible time, but I wasn't being nice. Let's just being honest.
First of all, I can't imagine you ever not being nice, but I know you're being extra genuinely nice. So I appreciate that. What was the rest of the question? I forget. It's
so
plotting.
Can you talk about plotting, how you wrote the novel, just your process?
Okay, so it's always I honestly really do start with who's the main character, what does she want, what's going to get in her way, and just that old adage of a person who thinks they're fixing something the right way, but over the course of the book, they realize they've actually been doing something gravely wrong, and all the problems are part of the way they operate, not just external bad luck. So, and then I follow sort of the 3-act structure of, I'm trying to think, Story by Robert McKee or Save the Cat for novel writers. Yeah. I really adhere to that. It keeps me on track. It keeps me mindful of rhythm and maintaining tension. I cannot imagine not having those safeguards in place. Yeah. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and the transitional things. So I just follow that as closely as I can. I tried to do something a little different with this book, which I was trying to have more of the romance angle, because I see that, romance is so popular right now. That thread in books has become such a popular element. And I realized I cannot put a romance front and center. I am incapable of it. I cannot see life through that lens. And I handed in a version of this book that my editor was like, no. And I just went back to the way I normally do things. And then I found my way to the story.
That's interesting. That's just the kind of storyteller you are. I love that. So do you have like a whole outline? Like you have tell us about what your outline looks like before you dive in.
So outline, it's that whole Robert Frost thing, how writing a book is like having a car in the fog with your headlights on, and you can only see so far ahead of you, but you have to keep going.
Yeah.
So I usually outline like 5 chapters. I get there, then I do 5 more chapters out. And I just find my way doing it like that, 5 chapters at a time.
You don't do the whole thing at once?
No, because I'll never be able to get it right.
Okay, I feel better now, because there's like the plotting out like that for me. I feel like I would get bogged in the middle of the plotting and never start writing. But if you're doing it in these chunks, that
I don't think we've ever had anyone say that before, which is really interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. That's the way I picture most people doing it, because I think even if you try, what do you guys outline all the way?
I do.
I don't outline.
And do you find that it actually plays out the way you anticipated? Like you can actually follow that through? Or do you have to say, no, I took a wrong turn here, I have to correct?
For me, it follows through about 80 to 90%, depending on the book.
Wow.
Yep.
That's very interesting. I would imagine that's unusual.
That's funny. There's just so many different ways to do it, right? Like it's funny.
Well, and I do think sometimes, I do think too, like Kristin, yours is ever so slightly different than like mine or Kathy's, because you have these real timestamps that you have to get to. Like
that's true.
You have history. I mean, you're making up the story, but you have to, like, the dates are so important for most of your books, like the framework is very important about how it works out.
That's true.
I mean, I just say that because the one time the wedding veil, and I thought this is why people outline. And if I ever write another historical novel, outline, because you have to have all of those dates so perfectly set up.
Yeah, I almost killed myself when I was writing High Tide Club because it was dual timeline.
Yeah.
Some historic fiction aspects. And the new one I'm working on now, same. And I started writing a timeline and then I kind of ignored it.
Kristin and Jamie both, since we have these outliners here, I'm curious. Yes. When you're doing your outlines, do you do whole like pages for a chapter, or just like, this is what's going to happen?
I do bullet points, like what the character, like what am I trying to accomplish with this chapter? Okay, this is a chapter where she realizes X.
Okay.
So I go into it with the, like, what do I need to get done? And then once I'm actually typing, then I figure out how I'm going to do it. So it's more of a bullet point paragraph thing.
That's what okay. How about
and mine are the opposite. I write like I'm telling you the story of what's going to happen in the novel, which sometimes includes dialogue, which sometimes doesn't. Like it's just however it comes to me. And I want it all down on paper so that I don't lose any of what came to me. Wow. So I'm just like typing as fast as humanly possible to like get every snippet of dialogue, every bit of detail, like everything. And some chapters are almost complete and some chapters are like just a few paragraphs.
Okay,
so then I'm just curious, Kristin, how long is the document of your outline when you're done the book?
My typical outline is between 15 and 20,000 words.
Wow. Oh. Okay, so when you go into then writing the book, are you like writing over your outline or you just like fresh?
I often will cut and paste my outline into the beginning of the chapter, like into the document. How about you, Jamie? How do you do it?
I don't use any of the outline on the page. It's just my sort of map. So like I type from scratch, but with a map of what I'm trying to get done.
Got it.
That's
awesome. So interesting. All 5 of us on the screen.
Totally different. All of us. Yeah.
So cool though. I love it. And I'm like, I wonder if I could do it a different way. Like I'd be interested, or like if I would be better if I did it another way, you know? I think there's always that question of like, but then switching it up just feels scary.
It does. You know?
Yeah.
Well, and also I feel like if I did it that way and I got to the end of 20,000 words, I'm like, now I know what happens and the book is over. And I have zero desire to write it. Right?
Like, that's funny.
But we're all wired differently. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Jamie.
So Jamie, some of our viewers might not know that in your previous life, you were a literary agent, which I had forgotten, to be totally honest with you. So how did you make the transition from agent to author? And how has kind of coming from the other side of the table influenced the way that you handle your career?
I made the transition. I was an agent, but I was an agent for a few years. And there was one project where I was looking for a ghostwriter. It was kind of like a packaging situation. And I was reading all these samples and, you know, I had always wanted to write, but I didn't have the confidence to do it. And so I decided I was going to write the sample, my own sample for this packaging project. And I did it. And the book ended up getting published. It was an e-serial. And then I realized, you know, I can do this. I can, there's no magic to it. It's just work. And that gave me the confidence to try. So that was an e-serial called The Gin Lovers, which I don't know if you guys remember, there was an era where they were really trying to do these e-serials where they released like a few chapters once a week and each segment would end on a cliffhanger, kind of like the way network TV used to be back when we didn't binge everything. And it just didn't really catch on. And then they bundled all those episodes into one complete book. So that was my sort of unorthodox entry point to writing novels.
So cool.
Love that.
That's very cool.
I loved it. I wish it had taken off because it was a fun way to write. But audience,
especially for you, because you're working like 5 chapters.
Yeah,
you were like made for that.
I know.
That's really interesting.
All right, so we have some really fun questions coming in from our audience. So, Jamie, you cannot pull your own live question. Kristin, could you pull a live question for us, please?
Sure. We have a question from Robin Shelley who says, Jamie, what suggestions do you have for writing a good opening for your novels?
I have found that it's impossible to write the correct opening until you've at least gotten to the middle of the book. And you definitely have to know what your ending is. Mm-hmm. So I think from a craft point of view is just, you've got to write something, get yourself into the book, and just know you're going to have to go back and, you know, rewrite it, fix it. It's never going to be what you think from the outset. That's my experience.
That is a great point. Great advice.
Yeah, for sure. Patti, can you pull a question for us, please?
Absolutely. And I agree with you, Jamie. But one time my prologue ended up being my prologue. But only once.
Wow.
And so I rewrote it 157,000 times to get it right. But the image I had of how it would start stayed the image of how.
Wow.
I know. All right. So this is a question from Jennifer Deutsch. She said, you have mentioned that you wrote a short story for your husband and it's a different genre. Was it hard to switch to a new genre?
Okay, so I wrote it with him because my husband's actually also a literary agent, and he had an idea that he said to me, yes, and it's a thriller, and it was surprising. I don't know if I could write an entire book in a different genre, but the constraint of the short story let me play around with it, and I loved it. So yes, it's a thriller short story called Gold Party, and it's about these women who have their kids in this elite private school in a suburb, and they have a fundraiser one night, and it's a gold party, which is where you can bring your jewelry and have it appraised, and then they'll either buy it or you can decline buying it. So they bring all their jewelry, and as they're doing this fundraiser, armed gunmen invade the house. And at first they think they're just there for the jewelry, and then they realize there's something much more nefarious going on.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was really
Good.
interesting. Yeah, and they someone optioned that to be made into a film. So now I've got a screenwriter fleshing it out into a full feature-length script.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I love
was-
that.
Fun idea.
Yeah, it's good.
Right. MKA, can you pull a question for us?
Yeah. Briss Gilbert wants to know, what are you reading and recommending right now?
Oh my goodness, why is this always the hardest?
It's so hard.
I'm
Never read
like,
It's
okay,
like
I'm
you've
done.
never read a book, and that's what
I
happens.
know. Okay, I'm gonna tell you, honestly, I've been, aside from all the novels I'm reading a nonfiction book right now called Ask Not by a woman named Maureen Callahan. And this is very timely because yesterday was the 25th anniversary of John F. Kennedy Jr.'s plane going down.
Yeah.
So Maureen Callahan has taken a fascinating look at all the Kennedy men and all the women in their lives, and basically how they've been like emotional roadkill for these men.
Yep.
And it's breathtaking.
Wow.
And I thought I
Wow.
knew all these stories, and I just went into it like I'm into this. The timing of it makes it interesting, fascinating, and I feel like it should be
Wow.
required reading because of the way these men and these historical tragedies have been sort of whitewashed to make it palatable and keep that mythology going. Yeah, it's great.
So
All
interesting.
glossed over, right?
So, it's unbelievable.
Wow. What's the name of the book again? Can you
It's
tell us
called
the name again?
Ask Not. Like,
Ask
you know
Not.
how
Yep,
John
his-
Kennedy's Ask
his
Not what you can do for
famous
your
quote.
country?
Yep.
But she's flipping it. Like, these women are basically like, ask not what's going on and just
Yeah.
toe the
Or
line.
where you've been or
Yeah,
what you've
I
been
love
doing.
it.
Yeah,
Oh, it sounds
really
brilliant.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Carrie Soderman asked you a two-parter, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to ask you the most important part, which is, what is your favorite wine?
Oh, my favorite.
What?
I know this is boring, but I would say it really is Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand.
That's
That's
great.
it.
That's not boring. Not boring at all.
Girly
All right, well,
wine.
Jamie, stick around. We have another question for you, but first, a few quick reminders to our listeners and viewers out there. So for all of you watching and listening, be sure to stick around later after the credits, as we will be having an after show tonight. And also, more importantly, we encourage you to rush out and buy your copies of A Novel Summer. In fact, you should probably just call Bethany Beach Books right now. And I bet Jamie would
yeah,
even
that'd be
personalize one for
nice.
you.
Yeah,
That's
operator
amazing.
standing by.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a great idea. You can
That's
call
such
them
a great
live right
idea.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
So
it.
if you are not calling Bethany Beach Books right now, which we highly recommend, you can also get the book on bookshop.org, where you'll get it at a discount, help fund our show, and support our guests and our beloved independent booksellers nationwide.
And the Friends and Fiction Bookshop on bookshop.org, you can find on our website. You can just go to our website and click the little bookshop logo and buy all of your books there, but especially Jamie's. We also want to remind you to follow us on Instagram. It is so much fun. We're adding so much more things. And of course, join our Facebook group, which is this close to 250,000 members strong. And when you visit friendsandfiction.com, you can stay up to date about everything we have going on. sign up for our newsletter. And we have some live events coming up in October and November. So keep your eyes open. September and November.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you're going to want to mark those on your calendars. Okay, now, Jamie, tell everybody out there how to connect with you. I mean, they come into the bookstore in Bethany Beach tonight and they can connect with you right away. But where can we find you online and on book tour?
Okay, so the best way online is Instagram at Jamie Brenner Writes. That's really the only thing I do online. And my book tour stops are posted. I also have a website, jamiebrenner.com. And those are the two best ways to be in touch with me.
Yeah, you've got a lot of quite a few stops coming up, right?
I do. I still have I have a Pennsylvania leg. I'm going to be on the main line, Bucks County. I'm doing Cape Cod and Rhode Island next week. So
fun.
That's the plan.
That's so fun. It's going to be great. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for being here to talk to us tonight about A Novel Summer and being a literary agent and your amazing writing process. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. And we are just so thrilled to help you launch this beautiful book into the world.
Yeah,
That's
thanks
the
for being
best.
with us live.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thanks so much, ladies. You're the best.
Thanks,
We
Jamie.
adore you. We're so happy
Bye.
for you.
Bye. Be sure to tune in next week when Patti and I welcome bestselling author Emily Giffen, up number 3 on New York Times.
Yeah, he's number 3 this week.
Amazing. To discuss her new novel, The Summer Pact. That show will air on the Friends and Fiction Facebook page and YouTube channel on Wednesday, July 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it will be posted to our podcast for your listening pleasure on Friday, July 26th. So thanks to all of you for being with us. Stick around for the after show, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
We're back after a brief intermission. Ladies, I feel like it hasn't been too long since we were all together in St. Louis, but it has been kind of a few weeks. So, Patti, I know you've been in Arkansas on the road. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've been from the tippy top left-hand corner of Arkansas all the way to the south and then back up to the middle to Little Rock. I'd never been to Arkansas before, and I traveled around in a library state vehicle with 3 librarians named Jennifer, Jen, and Karen. And it was so fascinating. And I was telling Ron that we should do a public service announcement one day, or even a show or a mini show on what librarians do for us. It is unbelievable. But it was a 1 state, 1 read. So all of Arkansas is supposed to read The Secret Book of Flora Lee. I have a feeling the whole state hasn't read it, but it was really fascinating. And we had, as usual, so many amazing friends and fiction people show up. They drove from Minneapolis. They drove from Wisconsin. And one of them, her name is Lisa, and we'll talk more about it another time, but she is opening a new bookstore. It's going to be called Sammy's Place. So all of these friends and fiction community, y'all follow us everywhere and show up with just such energy. And I was so thrilled. It was 107 heat index. I was thinking I might die, but I didn't. And I'm home now.
I think that was like my main takeaway from being on tour this time. And we always have really good turnout from our Friends and Fiction viewers, but I felt like this tour in particular was like amazing. Like there were so many Friends and Fiction readers at every stop. And y'all know how it is when you go to places that you haven't really been before. And there were like several places that I went that I'd never been. And I was like, oh God, like, is anybody going to come? And it's amazing how you guys just like show up and come out for us. And
I said it, and I sort of believe it. I don't think they come out for me. I think they came to see each other. Yeah, but it's whatever they're there for, it's fine by me. It's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Kristin, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot, which is actually fantastic after having such a busy time on tour at the beginning of May, and like a lot of busy stuff this year. But my sister and her kids were in town, so we had a large portion of our family together for the 4th of July for that whole week, which was really fun.
So fun.
And other than that, I've just been working on edits for my 2025 book. I've been working a little bit ahead on my 2026 book, and I've got some cool film stuff going on, film and TV stuff going on too. So we'll see. But it's been a busy time, but a little bit more relaxed.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right, MK, what about you? We know you went to Emily's launch with Patti, and you got to see Co-Oak. I'm glad that that's still working for us.
Yeah, got to see Coakley.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and it was so great. I mean, I had cataract surgery last week, so my eye was not a pretty thing to gaze at. So I wore dark glasses, and even with the dark glasses, so many people were coming up and saying, "Oh my gosh, we love you on Friends and Fiction," and that was just really nice. And then I've been trying to get back into my next book. I did write today. Patty's been after me. What are you doing? How's it coming? I'm almost done. I hope my editor isn't watching. I'm almost done with the prologue.
That's funny.
awesome.
Kristy,
And then we're
how about
planning a trip to Maine, so we're making all those plans.
That's great.
Kristy,
Well,
wait,
so
How do you feel being home and celebrating your birthday? And
it was great. So I got home like kind of late Saturday, and I largely took Sunday off. Am I telling the truth? Did I take Sunday off? Yeah, like I really
doubt
did.
it.
And then, I mean, kind of, but y'all know how it is. Like, it's like
Yeah.
when you've been on vacation and you come home and like you have a million pieces of mail and you have a zillion emails and like all of these things, and you have to unpack from 3 weeks, except that you've been working the hardest that you
Yes.
worked the whole year. But
Yeah.
it's not like you can come home and be like, I'm going to take time off, because like everything's waiting for you. Like all the
Yeah.
things that you've been like, we'll talk about that July 13th. Like, oh my God, July
The
13th.
holidays when you're like,
for me
we'll have
hard.
that in the new year.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. It's exactly right. So, so it's been like a busy few days. I did largely take yesterday off for my birthday. I was like, it's my birthday. I'm going to like hang out with my family and my friends. And, so that was kind of fun, but yeah, it's just the catch up, you guys know, but it's great. It's good catch up. There are lots of good things in the works. Really working on, what I'm going to write next, and just some fun meetings and good stuff. So yeah,
I heard about one of your fun meetings today, Kristy.
I heard about one of yours too.
Mary Kane, I did not hear about it. So we'll just have to,
No, we had a meeting with the
feel
same.
left out. We'll just have to feel left out.
We had a meeting with the same person back to back.
I know.
That happens to us a lot. All right. Well, you guys, I'm just so happy that we were here together tonight. I love y'all. I can't believe that we aren't going to be in person together until September.
I know.
I
But that's
know.
going to be here in the blink of an eye.
It is. It
Yeah.
almost is September.
It's
Yeah.
almost August, and like we're going to put our heads down and work, and we have so many amazing guests coming up,
Yeah.
and then the next thing you know, we'll all be together. So.
Yep.
So exciting. All right, everybody. Well, MKA, I mean, we'll talk to you a million times, but from everybody out there, happy birthday.
Oh,
And,
thank you. Thank you very much.
You too.
yeah, all right, guys.
Kristy.
Well, thanks for everything, and we will see you next week right here, same time, same place.
With Emily
Good night.
Griffin.